The void near the Turelian Nebula was not truly empty. It was a soup of faint gases and dust, painted in colors no human eye could fully see. To the sensors of the Keltari scout vessel Shining Verdict, it was a peaceful, if murky, place. Their ship moved through the clouds like a silver needle, graceful and silent. It was a ship built for beauty and precision, its surface smooth and gleaming. On the bridge of the Shining Verdict, Captain Lyra watched the data scroll across her console. She was calm. This was a simple survey mission, a show of presence in a region the Concordance had recently claimed. Her crew worked quietly at their stations, their movements efficient. They were Keltari, a people who had left war behind for generations. Their might was in their technology, their culture, their harmony. The concept of a brutal fight was a distant, ugly memory. Sensor contact, announced Tactical Officer Kale, his voice sharp in the quiet. Bearing 027, low relative velocity. It is large. A hologram bloomed in the center of the bridge. The ship it depicted was a shock to their aesthetic senses. It was a blocky, angular thing, a collection of hard rectangles and thick armor plating. It had no graceful curves. It showed no beautiful energy signatures. Instead, it radiated simple heat and basic electromagnetic noise, like an old, heavy rock sitting in space. Analysis, Lyra asked. Kale's fingers danced over his panel. It matches the limited profile we have for the human species. Classification, heavy cruiser. Model is designated Guardian class. Our databases flag it as an obsolete pattern. This power output is minimal for its size. Weapon signatures are primitive, primarily kinetic and laser-based. Shield density is oddly configured. It reads as low yield but incredibly broad spectrum. It is a simple design, a crude design. A murmur of dismissive whispers went around the bridge. To the Keltari, technology was about elegance and efficiency. This human ship was neither. It was brute force made into a shape that could fly. What is it doing? Lyra said. It is on a slow, steady course along the periphery of the nebula, Kale replied. A patrol route, perhaps. It has not altered its vector or powered significant weapons. It seems unaware of US or unconcerned. Lyra studied the image. The human ship looked dormant, almost dead. It flew with a kind of stubborn patience. She felt a flicker of pity. Humans were a new species on the galactic stage, still clinging to their childish ideas of conflict and armor. The Concordance had moved beyond such things. Hail them, Lyra ordered. Use standard first contact protocols. Let us see if their communication is as outdated as their ship. On the bridge of the UCS Vanguard, the mood was different. It was not calm, but it was focused. The lighting was softer, more functional. The crew sat at their stations with a relaxed readiness that came from long practice. Captain Min sat in his command chair. He was a man with a quiet face and watchful eyes. He had seen the sensor alert minutes before. He had watched the alien ship approach. He did not need a hologram. The data on his screen told him enough. Fast. Advanced. Probably Keltari. Newcomers to this sector. They're hailing us, Captain, said Executive Officer Yuna from the comm station. Her voice was clear and steady. Text-only response, Min said. Standard patrol greeting. Send our identification and current mission code. No audio, no video. Aye, sir. Min turned his head slightly. Chief Engineer June. Status. The voice that came back over the ship's intercom was cheerful. All systems in the green, Captain. Reactors are at 40%. Hull is nominal. That fancy ship out there is giving us a good scan. But our countermeasures are just making us look boring. They probably think we're a freighter. A small smile touched Min's lips. Good. Let them think. On the Shining Verdict, the human response appeared. It was a string of numbers and basic glyphs. It stated the ship's name, its affiliation with the United Colonies of Sol, and a code indicating a routine territorial patrol. It was utterly bland. They are not engaging in dialogue, Kale said, sounding annoyed. This is a rudimentary response. Almost automated. Lyra leaned back. They are either ignorant or insulting. This is a Concordance Protectorate now. Their routine patrol is in violation of agreed borders. She made a decision. Move to an intercept course. Deploy the gravimetric projectors. We will give them a demonstration. A gentle one. We will show them that their bulky ship is no match for modern technology. We will make them stop and talk. The shining verdict pivoted smoothly, its engines flaring with a clean, blue light. It accelerated, closing the distance to the human vessel with effortless speed. It moved to position itself in front of the Vanguard, a beautiful dancer placing itself before a lumbering giant on the Vanguard. The alert tone was a soft chime. Captain, the alien vessel is moving on an intercept vector. It is powering unknown energy systems. Una reported. Min nodded. Go to condition 2. No weapons power. Reinforce forward shields. Let's see what they have. The crew on the Vanguard moved with a quiet urgency. Lights on panels shifted from blue to amber. There was no panic, only procedure. They had trained for this. The shining verdict fired. 2 beams of shimmering, twisted light lanced out. They were not weapons designed to burn or blast. They were surgical tools, meant to slice through external sensor arrays, weapon mounts, and communication spires without harming the main hull. The gravimetric shears reached out for the Vanguard's blocky form. The beams struck the human ship's thick armor and crawled over its surface, seeking precise weak points. They shimmered and danced, and then faded on the Vanguard. June's voice came over the intercom. Well, that was a tickle. Report minor hull scoring on the outer ablative layer, section alpha. No system degradation. 0 pressure loss. They just gave us a polish. Min looked at the data on his screen. The attack had done nothing. Less than nothing. Are they aiming to annoy us? He wondered aloud on the shining verdict. The bridge was silent. Kale stared at his readings. The gravimetric shears had no effect. They were absorbed and dissipated. The hull integrity of the human vessel is unchanged.
Lira fronet.
That was not possible. The shears could cut through meter-thick composite. They should have disabled the human scanners at the very least. Again, focus on their primary engine emission port, a low-yield plasma lance. We will give them a more convincing reason to talk. The silver ship adjusted its aim. A point on its hull glowed a bright, dangerous green. A lance of concentrated green energy, hotter than the core of a star, sliced across the void from the shining verdict. It was not a crude blast. It was a precise, focused beam designed to deliver maximum thermal energy to a single critical point. Their target was the gaping mouth of the Vanguard's main engine nozzle, a place where armor was always thinnest. To the Keltari, it was a flawless tactical move. Disable the drive, end the chase, force a conversation. The beam struck the center of the dark nozzle. For a moment, a brilliant flower of superheated gas and vaporized metal bloomed in the silent dark. On the bridge of the shining verdict, the crew watched the display. Captain Lyra allowed herself a small nod of satisfaction. That would get their attention. A ship with a molten engine was going nowhere. She turned to her sensor officer. Report. What is the damage profile? The officer studied his screen. His confusion was immediate. The thermal signature is inconsistent, Captain. There is a massive heat bloom at the point of impact, but it is not spreading into the ship's interior as projected. It is being contained. Tactical Officer Kale leaned forward. Contained? How? Their materials cannot dissipate that much energy that quickly. Before they could analyze further, a new text-only message scrolled onto Lyra's main screen. It was from the human ship. The words were simple, devoid of the panic or anger she expected. UCS Vanguard to unknown vessel. You have committed an act of aggression. Cease fire and withdraw. This is your final warning. Lyra felt a spike of irritation. Final warning? Their engine was a ruin. Magnify the visual on the impact zone, she ordered. The hologram zoomed in. The green glare faded, revealing the damage. The entire engine nozzle assembly was blackened, scarred, and glowing a dull cherry red in places. But as they watched, The glow began to fade rapidly. Vents around the nozzle spewed clouds of freezing coolant, quenching the heat. The damage was entirely superficial, a deep scar on a thick hide. Their engine output? Lyra demanded. Unchanged, Captain, the sensor officer said, his voice filled with disbelief. The ship's velocity remains constant. Power readings from their drive core are steady. It is as if we hit a decorative structure. That was exactly what they had done. On the Vanguard, the mood was one of focused work, not alarm. Captain Min listened to the report from his chief engineer. June's voice was calm over the intercom, with a hint of professional critique. Direct hit on the primary exhaust baffle, Captain. Took it like a champ. Outer cowling is a mess, but the inner magnetic constriction rails are at 98%. We've purged the damaged section with cryofluid. The fake nozzle did its job. Casualties? Min asked. None, sir. It's a non-pressurized zone. Just a bunch of scrap metal that needed replacing anyway. Executive Officer Yuna looked up from her station. They are hailing us again, Captain. Audio and visual this time. Min considered for a moment. Put it on screen. Audio only for us. Let's hear what they have to say. The main viewer remained focused on the sleek alien ship, but a new window opened with a translated audio feed. Captain Lyra's voice filled the bridge. It was smooth, cultured, but held an edge of authority. Human Vessel Vanguard. This is Captain Lyra of the Keltari Concordant Scout Shining Verdict. You are operating in a restricted protectorate. Your refusal to comply with our directives has forced this demonstration. Your ship is clearly damaged. Withdraw now, and we will permit a tow vessel to assist you. Min looked at Yuna. There was no anger in his eyes, only a deep, patient certainty. He pressed a button to respond. Audio only. His voice was flat, clear, and carried the weight of granite. Captain Lyra, this is Captain Min of the United Colonies ship Vanguard. You are the one who is trespassing. You have fired upon a colonial patrol vessel. This is not a demonstration. This is an attack. Our ship is not damaged. We are combat effective. Stand down and depart the area. This is your only warning. On the Shining Verdict, Lyra's composed face tightened. His tone was infuriating. It was the tone of a man stating a simple fact, not arguing. He spoke as if he held all the power. She looked at Kale, who shook his head. Their power signature remains stable. Their weapon systems are now showing minimal power-up cycles, but they are still well within what we classify as low yield. He is bluffing, Lyra stated. His ship is wounded. He is trying to save face. Target their primary weapon battery, the large kinetic launcher on their dorsal spine. Disable it with a focused gravimetric pulse. Let us remove his teeth and see if he still growls. The Shining Verdict shifted again, its movements a ballet of precision. It slid above the Vanguard, lining up a perfect shot on the massive, barrel-like structure that ran along the human ship's back. On the Vanguard, Yuna tracked the movement. They're maneuvering for another shot, targeting our main forward railgun battery. Min nodded slowly. He thought of the old story, the one every captain knew. The story of a ship that failed because its structure was weak and its command was confused. He pushed the memory aside for now. This was not the time for history. It was time for a lesson. Condition 1, Min said, his voice still quiet. A different alarm sounded on the Vanguard. A low, resonant pulse. The lights on the bridge dimmed slightly, shifting to a deep red standby glow. The crew's movements became even more deliberate. June, rear out primary power to dorsal armor. Let the railgun spool down. It's a tough old girl, but let's not tempt fate. Already done, Captain, June replied. Dorsal plating is energized. Their fancy beam will just give us another light show. The Shining Verdict fired. A pulse of distorted space, invisible to the eye but devastating to complex machinery, slammed into the Vanguard's dorsal spine. On the Keltari sensors, they expected to see the magnetic coils of the human railgun overload and melt. Instead, they saw a ripple of blue energy spread out in a web across a square kilometer of the human ship's hull. dissipating the gravimetric force harmlessly into space. The railgun sat there, dark and silent, but entirely intact. The weapon is inactive, but our attack had no destructive effect, Kale reported, frustration creeping into his voice. Their entire hull is a dissipative shield. It is inelegant. It is a waste of power. But it is effective. Lyra stared at the blocky, scarred ship on her screen. It just sat there. It didn't run. It didn't fight back with fury. It simply endured. For the first time, a cold trickle of doubt entered her mind. This was not how technology behaved. This was not how battles were won. You struck a critical point and the enemy system failed. That was logic. This human ship was ignoring logic. She had been trained in 1,000 scenarios, but never in one where the enemy simply refused to be damaged. All weapons, Lyra said, her voice hardening. Target multiple points across their hull. Ignore specific systems. Let us see if their entire ship is as stubborn as their captain. On the Vanguard, Min watched as the alien ship's various weapon ports began to glow with different colors of energy. They're done with pinpricks, Captain, Una said. I see it, Min replied. He took a slow breath. The time for warnings was over. The time for the lesson had begun. Una, open a ship-wide channel. He waited for her nod. This is the captain, Min said, his voice echoing through every corridor, bunk, and engine room of the Vanguard. We have attempted to resolve this peacefully. The alien vessel has chosen to escalate. We will now respond. All hands, brace for tactical maneuvering. This is not a drill. He closed the channel and turned to his helmsman. Bring us about. Point our nose at them. Not a full burn. Just enough to show them we're not a rock. As the massive Vanguard began a slow, ponderous turn, its main forward lights powering up to illuminate its own scarred prow, Min gave his next order, his voice finally losing its soft edge, gaining the quiet finality of stone. Power the forward batteries. All of them. Let's show them what obsolete looks like. The slow turn of the Vanguard was not the swift, graceful pivot of the shining verdict. It was a deep space maneuver of immense mass-shifting direction. Thrusters along its flanks fired in controlled bursts, nudging the great block of armor and machinery. To the watching Keltari, it looked clumsy, like a sleepy giant turning over in bed. Captain Lyra saw the movement and felt a surge of triumph. Finally, a reaction, she said. They are attempting to bring their primary weapons to bear. Too slow. All weapons target their forward section. Focus on their command tower and sensor arrays. Fire! The shining verdict became a constellation of light. Beams of emerald plasma, pulses of violet distortion, and lances of cutting white energy streaked across the short distance between the ships. They struck the Vanguard's forward hull in a spectacular display. Metal vaporized in flashes. Ablative armor plates turned to superheated gas and slag. The human ship's prow was wreathed in a temporary storm of destruction. On the Vanguard, the ship shuddered. It was a deep, groaning vibration that ran through the deck plates and into the bones of the crew. Alarms chimed in different sections, but their tones were controlled, informational. The bridge lights flickered for a half-second before steadying. Captain Min held onto his command chair, his body absorbing the shakes. Report, he said, his voice cutting through the low rumble. Una's hands flew over her console. Multiple direct hits on forward armor belts. Layers 1 through 3 compromised in sectors 7, 8, and 9. No breach to the inner pressure hull. Point defense cluster Alpha is offline. Forward long-range scanner dish is destroyed. From engineering, June's voice was loud and clear. That got our attention. Forward reactors are fine. Conduit damage is minimal and rerouting. We're bleeding heat from the impacted zones. Hull integrity at 87% and holding. She's built for this, Captain. They're just making noise. Min looked at the main viewer. It showed a cloud of debris and glowing gas dispersing from their bow. Beneath it, the Vanguard's armor was blackened and torn, but the shape beneath was still solid, still whole. Helm, continue the turn. Bring us to bearing 000 right at them. Weapons, Status. The tactical officer, a young man named Lee, answered. Forward kinetic batteries are charged and locked. Laser banks are at full capacity. They're painting our scars, but we're ready to punch back. Hold fire, Min said. Let them finish their volley. On the shining verdict, the initial satisfaction was turning to cold disbelief. The sensor officer's voice was tight with confusion. Direct hits confirmed, Captain. Significant surface damage. But internal power readings are unchanged. Life support, propulsion, weapons power, all stable. They have lost external systems, but no critical failures. Kale slammed a fist on his panel. It is impossible. We have struck them with enough energy to cut a moon in half. Their ship should be a drifting wreck. Lyra watched as the human ship completed its turn. The front of it was a mess, a landscape of molten metal and craters. But from the center of that devastation, two massive armored doors began to grind open. From within the deep hull, not the scarred surface, the blunt snouts of twin rotary railgun batteries emerged. They were not elegant. They were brutal cylinders of forged metal. And now they show their teeth, Lyra whispered, a chill running down her spine. Evasive pattern Zeta. Now, the shining verdict was a master of evasion. It slid sideways, its engines flaring, preparing to dance around the slow human guns. The Vanguard did not try to track the swift movements. It simply fired. There was no bright beam. There was only a deep, thunderous thump that vibrated through the human ship's frame. From the left battery, a spear of solid tungsten, longer than a bus, was hurled into space by magnetic forces so strong they bent light around the barrel. It was not aimed at where the shining verdict was. It was aimed at where it would be, based on its last evasive maneuver. The projectile crossed the distance in a blink. It did not hit the shining verdict. It passed so close to its hull that the shockwave of its passage scraped off micrometers of the perfect silver finish. The bridge of the alien ship rocked violently. Warning lights flared. Near miss. Gravitational shear from the projectile's passage. Minor hull stress. Kale yelled. Lyra's heart pounded. That was not a warning shot. That was a statement. The projectile had been moving so fast that if it had hit, it would have passed through their entire ship like a needle through cloth. Return fire. Maximum dispersion. Target their weapon batteries. The shining verdict unleashed another torrent of energy, this time aiming for the open gun ports. The blasts crashed into the Vanguard's forward section again, chewing up more armor, destroying another sensor tower. Inside the Vanguard, the damage reports continued. Yuna called them out. Port railgun battery reports minor heating. Cooling systems engaged. Forward hangar bay doors are damaged. They are sealed. No change to combat status. Min listened. Each report was a piece of data. The alien ship was powerful. Its weapons could hurt them. But the hurt was shallow, like a knife scraping against a thick skull. The Vanguard was built to take this, to absorb the fury, to remain functional while its enemy spent its energy. Fire again, Min ordered. Alternate batteries. Wide dispersal pattern. Box them in. The Vanguard fired its right battery. Another tungsten spear shot out. Then the left battery fired. Then the right again. The projectiles were not precise. They formed a rough cage of supersonic metal around the shining verdict, forcing it to jerk and twist in space, its beautiful evasive patterns broken by the need to avoid the simple, terrifying kinetic kill vehicles. One near miss was too near. A projectile grazed the very edge of the shining verdict's starboard engine nacelle. It did not explode. It simply ripped away a 20-meter section of hull plating and delicate internal machinery as it passed. The alien ship lurched. A cascade of system failures rippled through it. The elegant blue glow of its engines flickered and died on one side. It began to drift, spinning slowly. Direct hit. We have lost primary propulsion on the starboard side. Maneuvering is down to 40%. Kale shouted, panic edging his voice for the first time. Lyra stared at her screens. One graze from a simple lump of metal, and her ship was crippled. They had poured enough energy into the human vessel to power a city, and it had shrugged it off. The human ship had fired 4 times with crude weapons and had 1 dot on the Vanguard. Lee looked up. Target's maneuverability is severely reduced. Its energy shield fluctuation is spiking. They are vulnerable. Min looked at the image of the wounded shining verdict, its silver beauty now scarred and spinning. He felt no triumph. He felt a heavy tiredness. This was the lesson, and it was a cruel one. Cease fire, Min said. All batteries to standby. Hold position. The bridge was quiet except for the hum of systems and the distant sound of damage control teams over the intercom. The Vanguard, wounded but fundamentally unbroken, hung in space facing its crippled foe. The storm of energy was over. The silence that followed was louder than any explosion. The silence on the bridge of the Vanguard stretched out, thick and heavy. On the main viewer, the shining verdict drifted in a slow, uncontrolled spin. The elegant blue light of its main drive was gone, replaced by the frantic flicker of emergency thrusters trying to stop the rotation. A cloud of glittering debris, pieces of its own perfect hull, trailed behind it like a sad comet's tail. Captain Min watched it all. He did not smile. He did not give an order to finish the fight. He simply watched, his face calm but his eyes holding a deep old sadness. Life signs? Min asked, his voice quiet in the stillness. Yuna checked her panel. Reading multiple life signs, Captain. Fluctuating. They have atmosphere but power is failing. Their shield is gone. They are defenseless. A junior officer at the comm station, a young woman named Sue, spoke up. Her voice was tight. Captain, we are receiving a distress call. Automated, on all frequencies. It is a standard concordance emergency beacon. They are calling for help. Every eye on the bridge turned to Min. This was the moment. The enemy was broken. They had attacked first. Standard protocol was clear. Secure the threat, demand surrender, prepare for boarding if necessary. It was what the Keltari had expected. It was what any logical victor would do. Min did not give those orders. Yuna, he said, turning to his executive officer. Recall the damage control teams from the forward sections. Have them stand by in the main starboard hangar bay. I want 2 medics with full trauma kits and a security detail of 4. Sidearms only, no heavy armor. Yuna blinked, surprised, but nodded. Aye, sir. Min then looked at the young comms officer. Sue, open a channel to the shining verdict. Audio only translated. Put it on speaker. A soft tone indicated the channel was open. The only sound from the other end was a faint, panicked hum of alarms and distorted voices. This is Captain Min of the UCS Vanguard, he said. His voice was not loud, but it was firm and clear, meant to cut through their chaos. We are receiving your distress signal. We are standing down. Repeat, we are ceasing all hostilities. What is your immediate emergency? Do you have loss of life support? Do you have uncontrolled fires or radiation leaks? Report. On the bridge of the spinning shining verdict, Lyra clutched her command chair, her knuckles white. The sudden, violent loss of control had been a physical and mental shock. She was waiting for the killing blow, for the final barrage that would crack her ship in half. Her crew was shouting reports of system failures, of hull breaches, of imminent core collapse. When Min's voice came through, cutting through the noise, she could not process it at first. The words made no sense. Standing down. Ceasing hostilities. What is your emergency? Kale looked at her, his face pale. It is a trick, he hissed. They are toying with us before the end. Lyra held up a hand, silencing him. She forced air into her lungs. Human vessel, she transmitted, her voice shaky but trying for authority. Our primary propulsion is destroyed. Secondary power is failing. We have minor hull breaches on 2 decks. Life support is stable. For now. She expected demands. Surrender or be destroyed. Prepare to be boarded. Min's reply was immediate. Understood. Do not attempt major repairs. Secure your crew in pressure suits if breaches are a risk. We are moving to assist. Lyra stared at her comm panel in utter disbelief. Assist. On the vanguard, Min turned to his helmsman. Bring us alongside them.
Matching rotation, 50-meter offset.
Use minimal thrusters. I don't want to pepper them with our debris. Captain. Matching spin. The massive, scarred bulk of the human ship began to move again. It did not point its weapons. It turned gently, aligning itself with the spinning shining verdict. Then, with tiny puffs of gas from its thrusters, it began to spin at the same slow, sickening rate. It was an incredible feat of piloting for such a large vessel. Soon, the two ships were turning together, locked in a slow dance, the wounded and the scarred. Position holding, the helmsman said. June, Min said into the intercom. I need a power transfer conduit and a structural integrity field generator prepped in Hangar Bay 2. Can we give them enough juice to keep their lights on and their air clean? June's voice came back, surprised but professional. Aye, Captain. We can spare it from the secondary reactors. Their systems are probably compatible with a basic feed if we let their engineers handle the coupling. The SIF generator will help seal those hull tiers from the outside. It's a bandage, not a fix. Do it, Min said. Then he looked at Yuna. Assemble the team. You're in command of the boarding party. Tell our medics their job is to treat injuries, not ask questions. Tell security their job is to protect our people, and there's in that order. No one raises a weapon unless fired upon. Is that clear? Yuna stood up straight. Perfectly clear, sir. She moved quickly off the bridge. Min leaned back in his chair. The bridge crew was looking at him now, not with confusion, but with a kind of solemn understanding. They had trained for this too, not just for fighting but for this moment after the fight. Sue, the young comms officer, was watching the drifting alien ship. She was new. This was her first patrol, her first combat. She looked pale. Min noticed. You have a question, Officer Sue? He asked gently. She jumped slightly. Sir, why are we helping them? They shot first. They tried to destroy us. Min was quiet for a moment. He looked at the main viewer, at the beautiful, broken ship they were now trying to save. It's an old story, Sue, he said, his voice low. A story from before spaceflight. About a ship that sank because it was not built to take damage, and because the crew was not prepared to save it when it was hurt. He paused, choosing his words carefully for the young officer. We are not them. We build our ships to sink slowly, and we train our crews to save lives, even when it's hard, even when it doesn't seem fair, because that is the only thing that makes the might we have worth anything. He didn't explain further. He didn't need to. The order itself was the explanation. On the shining verdict, Lyra watched as a large bay door on the side of the human ship opened. A sturdy, boxy shuttle emerged, nothing like their own graceful craft. It moved with purpose, docking with the emergency hatch near their damaged engineering section. A new voice came over the comm. A woman's voice, calm and direct. It was Yuna. Shining verdict. This is Executive Officer Yuna of the Vanguard. We have docked at your portside emergency hatch. We have medical aid and power stabilization equipment. Do you grant permission to board? Lyra sat in her broken chair, in her broken ship, surrounded by the failure of everything she understood about power and technology. The humans had won. They had every right to take. Instead, they asked permission to give. Her voice was a whisper, thick with emotion she did not understand. Permission granted. The airlock door on the shining verdict opened with a hiss of equalizing pressure. The first thing Executive Officer Yuna noticed was the smell. It was not the metallic oil and ozone scent of the Vanguard. It was floral and clean, like a perfumed garden. Now, underneath it was the sharp, acrid tang of burned electronics and fear. The first thing the Keltari crew saw was the human boarding party. They were not what they expected. Yuna stood at the front. She wore a simple, functional ship suit with a captain's insignia on the collar. Her helmet was off, tucked under her arm. She looked calm, her eyes scanning the corridor with professional assessment, not conquest. Behind her stood two medics with large red crosses on their kits and 4 security personnel. Their weapons were holstered. They carried toolboxes and bulky power cells instead. The Keltari officer waiting for them, a young man with silver-tinted skin, looked terrified. He held a small, elegant device that was probably a sidearm, but his hand was shaking. Yuna stopped a few steps inside and gave a small, respectful nod. I am Executive Officer Yuna. This is my team. Where are your injured? The Keltari officer just stared. The human's directness was disarming. Our infirmary is on deck 3. We have several burns from console overloads. One possible fracture. Lead the way, Yuna said, gesturing for her 2 medics to follow him. They moved without hesitation, their heavy boots sounding loud on the graceful, polished floor. Yuna turned to the rest of her team. You too, she pointed to a pair of security crew. Go with Chief Engineer June's people. They're bringing in the power conduit and the field stabilizer. Help them hook it up wherever the Verdict's engineers direct. Your muscle, not experts. Listen to them. The 2 crew members nodded and moved off towards the docking umbilical, where June's engineering team was already hauling in heavy, utilitarian equipment. The last 2 security personnel stayed with Yuna. Let's find their command deck, she said. We need to speak with Captain Lyra. The walk through the shining Verdict was a strange experience. The ship was beautiful. The corridors curved in smooth, organic lines. Light came from soft panels in the walls. But now emergency lights cast long, grim shadows. Panels were cracked and smoking. The floor was littered with fine, glittering dust from shattered crystal displays. They passed Keltari crew members who pressed themselves against the walls, their large eyes wide with a mix of terror and utter confusion. The humans were not attacking. They were just walking with purpose. They found the bridge. The doors, usually a seamless part of the wall, were stuck partway open. Yuna stepped through. The scene was one of elegant disaster. The holographic displays were dark. Some consoles still flickered weakly. Captain Lyra stood in the center, trying to project control, but her posture was shattered. Tactical Officer Kale was at her side, his face a mask of anger and humiliation. He took a step forward as Yuna entered. You have no right here, Kale spat, the translator in Yuna's ear converting his words perfectly. Yuna ignored him. She looked directly at Captain Lyra. Captain Lyra, my captain offers his compliments. Our engineering team is connecting a power feed to your secondary grid. It should restore basic lighting and life support stability. The structural integrity field generator will act as an external patch for your hull breaches. It will hold until you can make permanent repairs. Lyra looked from Yuna's face to the 2 quiet, watchful human guards behind her. They did not point their weapons. They simply stood. Why are you doing this? Lyra asked. The question burst from her, raw and honest. You have won. The ship is yours. The rules of engagement are clear. Yuna tilted her head slightly. The rules of engagement ended when your distress call began. Now, the rules of common humanity apply. My captain does not believe in letting people die to prove a point. Kale let out a bitter sound. Common humanity? You are brutes. You build a stupid, thick ship and throw rocks at us. You have no subtlety, no advanced science. You win by being too primitive to break. Yuna's calm eyes moved to Kale. Her voice remained level. Your ship is a masterpiece of subtlety, tactical officer. It can do 1,000 things ours cannot. But can it do this? She gestured around the damaged bridge, then back the way she came. Can it take a beating and keep its crew alive? Can it lose half its skin and still have the strength to help the ship that hurt it? Kale had no answer. His science had no formula for that. Lyra's shoulders slumped. The fight left her. What happens now? Now, Yuna said, her tone shifting to something more practical. We help you get your system stabilized. Our medic is seeing to your wounded. Once your ship is no longer in danger of immediate collapse, we will discuss a tow. The Vanguard can pull you to the edge of the nebula, where you can call for help from your own people. A tow. Lyra repeated, the concept absurd. Their sleek vessel, hauled by the blocky human warship? It will not be graceful, Yuna admitted, almost smiling. But it will be safe. Our ship is good at pulling weight. She paused, looking at the scorch marks on the wall. You should come with me, Captain. See what your people are doing. It will help you understand. Hesitantly, Lyra followed Yuna off the bridge. Kale, fuming, trailed behind them. They made their way to the main engineering bay. The sight there was the most shocking of all. Human and Keltari engineers were working side by side. It was not easy. The Keltari moved with frantic, precise gestures, speaking in rapid technical terms. The humans, led by Chief June who had come across, moved slower. They listened. They pointed at the thick power conduit they had brought, then at a damaged Keltari energy node. They were not taking over. They were offering a tool. June saw Yuna and walked over, wiping grease from his hands onto his already stained pants. Captain Lyra, he said with a nod. We're getting there. Your people are smart. Their systems are just delicate. Once we get this basic power feed locked in, you'll be able to reroute from there. Lyra watched as one of her junior engineers, a female named Nara, directed a human crew member where to weld a support bracket. The human nodded and sparked up his torch, the bright blue light harsh in the beautiful room. You are treating our systems with respect, Lyra observed, the words strange in her mouth. June shrugged. It's your house. We're just helping to fix the broken window and get the lights back on. The rest is up to you. He looked at the intricate, exposed inner workings of the Keltari ship with a sort of professional curiosity. It's beautiful work, really, just not meant for a fight. Lyra turned from the scene, her mind reeling. The humiliation was still there, a hot coal in her chest. But underneath it, something else was growing. Awe, and a dreadful, sinking understanding. Might was not about the brilliance of your light. It was about the stubbornness of your shadow. It was not about never falling. It was about being able to get back up, and then turning to help the person who pushed you. She looked at Yuna. I would like, Lyra said quietly, to speak with your captain. Captain Lyra followed Yuna back through the docking tube and into the UCS Vanguard. The difference was not just visual. It was physical. The air was cooler, drier, and carried the scent of metal, lubricant, and recycled air. The gravity felt a fraction heavier. The corridor they entered was not a graceful curve, but a straight line with hard right angles. The lighting was bright and even, leaving no shadows. But it was the state of the corridor that struck Lyra most. They were walking through what the humans called damage control alley. The walls here were scarred. Some panels were missing, revealing bundles of cables and pipes behind them. The floor was grated, and beneath it she could see more machinery. Crew members in coveralls moved with focused energy, welding patches, rerouting lines, and calling out status reports. There was no panic. There was only work. One human, a young woman with her hair tied back, was using a large wrench to tighten a valve. She saw Yuna and nodded. Pressure stable in this section now, ma'am. Got the leak sealed. Good work, Hannah, Yuna said, and kept walking. Lyra watched it all. This was the ship that had just absorbed the full fury of the shining verdict. Inside, it was wounded, but it was functioning with a quiet, determined hum. Her own beautiful ship was silent and dying after a single graze. The comparison was a painful lesson written in steel and sweat. They entered a lift. It was large, industrial, and moved with a solid thunk. When the doors opened, they were on the bridge. It was smaller than she expected, and darker. The main lights were low, with individual stations lit by their own consoles. The main viewer showed the spinning shining verdict, now with a faint, shimmering blue field, the human integrity generator, holding over its wounded flank. In the center of the room, sitting in a command chair that looked more like a reinforced pilot's seat, was Captain Min. He stood as they approached. He was not tall by Keltari standards, but he had a presence that filled the space. His ship suit was plain, with a few old stains on it. He looked tired, but his eyes were clear and direct. Captain Lyra, he said, giving a short, respectful nod. I am Captain Min. Please sit. He gestured to a nearby station chair. Lyra sat, feeling stiff and out of place. Yuna took a position standing near Min's chair. You are giving my ship power. Lyra began, unsure how to start. You are treating my wounded. I do not understand your actions. Min sat back down, his eyes on the viewer. Your ship attacked mine. The fight is over. Your ship is now in distress. The first duty of any captain is to the lives in their care. That includes yours. Now that you cannot care for them yourself. That is not our doctrine, Lyra said softly. I know, Min replied. There was no judgment in his voice. It was just a fact. Lyra gathered her courage. She needed the answer. How? Your ship is old. Your weapons are simple. Our scans showed it. We had the advantage in every measurable category. Yet we lost. Why? Min was quiet for a long moment. He seemed to be choosing his words. You lost, he said slowly, because you were measuring the wrong things. You measured the sharpness of the knife. We measure the strength of the shield. You measure the power of the engine. We measure the redundancy of the systems. You see a ship as a collection of technology to be used. We see a ship as a living community to be protected. He turned to face her. Your single shot to our engine should have worked. It was a perfect tactical strike. But you hit a dummy port. Our real engines are buried behind 3 meters of armor and a half-dozen backup systems. You targeted our main weapon. It was a valid target. But its most important component isn't the gun itself. It's the 4 separate power feeds that can be switched in under 2 seconds if one is cut. Lyra listened, her mind reeling. It was a philosophy of design rooted in paranoia. You built your ship to win a fight, Min continued. We built ours to survive one. To survive it, and then be ready for the next one an hour later. You sought to disable us with precision. We are built to ignore precision. We are built to endure brute force. Your brute force was not brutal enough. The truth was awful in its simplicity. The Keltari had spent centuries perfecting the art of the surgical strike. They had met an enemy upon whom surgery was useless. Then the weapon you used, the kinetic projectile, Lyra said. A solid tungsten rod, Min said. Very old technology. No guidance system to jam. No energy signature to track. Just mass and velocity. Your shields are designed to dissipate energy, plasma, lasers, gravimetric forces. They are not designed to stop a 10-ton spear moving at a fraction of light speed. There is nothing to dissipate. Only a wall thick enough to absorb the impact can stop it. You do not have such walls. A young officer on the bridge, the one named Sue, spoke up from her station. Captain, the power transfer is complete. The shining verdict reports stable life support and internal gravity restored. Their emergency systems are back online. Min nodded. Thank you, Sue. He looked back at Lyra. Your ship is no longer dying. You have your lights and your air. Lyra felt a swell of emotion she couldn't name. Relief, shame, gratitude, all twisted together. You could have left us. You could have taken our ship as a prize. Why go to this trouble? For the first time, Min's calm expression shifted into something deeper, heavier. It was not anger. It was sorrow. Because a long time ago on our world, a ship sank, he said, his voice low. A ferry, full of children. It was not built to handle damage. When it was hurt, it sank fast. And the order that was given was for the passengers to stay in their rooms. To wait. They waited to die. The bridge was silent. The human crew did not look up, but their faces were solemn. They knew this story. We learned 2 things from that water, Min said. First, we build things so they sink slowly, so there is always time. Second, we train everyone that when something goes wrong, you do not wait for an order. You act to save the ship, to save the person next to you. That is our might, Captain Lyra. It is not in that first shot. It is in what happens after the hit. It is in the getting back up. And if we can, we help the other person get back up, too. He stood up. Your ship is stable. My engineer, June, will help yours plan the temporary repairs. We will tow you to the nebula's edge. You can call your people from there. Lyra stood as well. The words felt inadequate, but she had to say them. Thank you, Captain Min. For my crew's lives. Min gave another small nod. You are welcome. Officer Yuna will escort you back. As Lyra turned to leave, her eyes swept over the human bridge one more time. She saw the scars on the walls, the determined faces of the crew, the quiet, humming power of a ship that refused to die. She had come looking for superior technology. She had found something else entirely. She had found a strength carved from memory and loss, a might that was measured not in what it could destroy, but in what it could endure and what it was willing to save. The tow cable was not a graceful, energy-based tether. It was a physical thing, a thick composite line as wide as a tree trunk, shot from a massive launch tube on the Vanguard's stern. It crossed the void between the two ships and anchored itself with explosive bolts to the main structural spine of the shining verdict. To the Keltari, it looked primitive, almost insulting. To the humans, it was simple, strong, and reliable. Inside the Vanguard, Captain Min gave the order. Ahead slow, 1/4 impulse power. Keep the strain steady. The big ship's main engines, buried deep and unharmed, glowed a deep, steady blue. They engaged with a rumble that vibrated through the deck. The cable went taut. For a long, straining moment, nothing happened. Then, the spinning of the shining verdict began to slow. The human ship's thrusters fired in tiny bursts, making careful adjustments. The pull was not smooth, but it was powerful and controlled. Soon, the alien ship was stable, hanging silently behind its savior, linked by the thick, ugly line. On the bridge of the shining verdict, Captain Lyra watched the main viewer. It showed the stern of the Vanguard, a landscape of armored plates, heat scars, and weapon ports. The human ship filled their view, a vast, dark wall blotting out the stars. It was the most undignified thing she had ever experienced. And yet, she felt a profound, humbling sense of safety. Tactical Officer Kale stood beside her, his arms crossed. To be dragged like refuse, he muttered. It is a final humiliation. Lyra did not look at him. Her eyes were fixed on the human ship.
No, Kyle.
It is not. Look at it. Really look. We hit that ship with everything we had. We scarred its face. We broke its fingers. And yet, its heart beats strong enough to pull us, and its arms are steady enough to do it gently. What is that, if not a different kind of grace? Kale had no answer. The data on his screens told the story he could not argue with. The human ship's power output was steady. Its internal systems were all green. It was performing a complex tow operation while simultaneously repairing its own battle damage. Its might was not a single moment of violence. It was a continuous, unbroken state of being. The journey to the edge of the nebula took hours. In that time, the two crews, linked by comms, worked together. Human engineers advised on stabilizing the shining verdict's fractured power grid. Keltari medics, once their own wounded were stable, shared their advanced tissue regenerators with a human crew member who had taken a bad fall during the engagement in a quiet corridor on the Vanguard. The young comms officer Sue found herself working alongside Nara, the Keltari engineer. They were running a diagnostic on the communication link between the ships. Nara was fascinated by the human equipment. It was so simple, so robust. Your systems, they have so many backups, Nara said, her voice full of professional curiosity. Sue nodded, connecting a cable. It's standard. Everything has a backup. And a backup for the backup. My captain says it's because space doesn't care if your technology is pretty. It only cares if it works. The story your captain told, Nara ventured softly, about the sinking ship. Is it true? Sue's hands stilled for a moment. Yes, it is a very old story. But every officer learns it. We don't build ships to be perfect. We build them so that when things go wrong, and they always do, people have time to fix it. And everyone, from an engineer to a cook, is trained to help fix it. Nara looked at the thick, unadorned walls around her. You build your ships from the inside out. You build the community first, then the shell to protect it. Sue smiled a little. I've never heard it said that way, but yes, I think that's right. Finally, the Vanguard eased to a stop at the clear space where the nebula's gas and dust thinned out into open starfield. The great tow cable went slack. On the Vanguard's bridge. Min watched the navigational fix. "We are here." Detach the cable. The explosive bolts fired, and the massive cable drifted away, coiling slowly in the zero-gravity. "Open a channel," Min said. "Channel open, sir," replied Sue. "Captain Lyra," Min said, "you are at the coordinates we agreed upon. Your long-range comms should be clear of nebula interference. You can call your fleet now." Lyra's face appeared on the viewer. She looked different. The pride was gone, replaced by a weary understanding. "We have already done so, Captain Min. A recovery vessel is on its way. They will be here in 6 hours." "Good," Min said. "We will hold position until they arrive, to ensure your safety." Lyra took a deep breath. "Captain, I have no words that are sufficient. We attacked you. We called you primitive. We were wrong. You have shown us a strength my people had forgotten to calculate. You have shown us that true might is not in the first blow, but in the capacity to choose the last one. And you chose mercy." Min's expression softened, just a little. "It was not mercy, Captain. It was standard procedure. We are all in the dark together. The only thing that makes the dark bearable is knowing the other ship in the night will not let you drown." He paused. "Good luck with your repairs, Captain Lyra. Vanguard out." The screen went dark, showing the stars once more. Min leaned back in his chair. The bridge was quiet. The immediate work was done. "Set a course for home," Min said finally. "Ahead 1/2 impulse. Let's go see our families." The Vanguard turned, its battered hull catching the light of a distant sun. It moved off, leaving the elegant, wounded shining verdict waiting for its kin. As the human ship dwindled into the dark, it was not a picture of victorious glory. It was a picture of resilience, a vessel marked by fire, but unbroken, a community that had been tested and had held. In the silent wake of the human ship, a new signal traveled at faster-than-light speed from the shining verdict. It was Captain Lyra's official report to the Keltari Concordance High Command. It began not with a declaration of war, but with a warning about a species called humanity, who measured power in endurance, who built their ships like fortresses and their crews like families, and who had learned, from a tragedy in their deep past, that the strongest thing in the universe was not the weapon that could end a life, but the stubborn, unwavering will to preserve it.